I have been through IUI, IVF, acupuncture, all the natural herbs, natural hormones, other injectable hormones of every type, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, blah, 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 the hormones that you rub up on you as well, adoption, natural births, miscarriages, and healthy pregnancies. Hey friends, welcome to Keep It Simple Sexy. I'm Christine Bullock, founder of KO Body Care, certified fitness trainer, and mom of 2 little girls who's just trying to juggle it all and feel as good as possible. I'm so grateful that you're here. Now let's get started, sexy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Keep It Simple Sexy. I'm your host, Christine Bullock, and today I'm also your guest. I'm really excited today. We are going to get into some additional individual podcasts, some quick little tidbits here, and today we're focusing on fertility. It's something that you hear me touch upon in so many of the episodes because we're always talking about health. And a lot of the reasons that I had infertility issues for many, many years were little parts of my health issues. And that's why I have these experts on here. But I figured it'd be a great time to just dive into my full experience with fertility, give you a little background on it if you're interested. And also, I know so many women who have gone through this, who are going through this, and who may go through this in the future, and you can pass this episode along to. And one of the things, my journey started 10 years ago. And at that time, fertility was not talked about. It's amazing the amount of changes just in the world since then. And generally how open women are about so many more things now, but fertility is one of those things that we talk a lot more about and you hear more about and people are more open about. But it just wasn't talked about at that time. And I felt like I was going through it very solo. My girlfriends weren't going through it. But luckily, because I worked with women on a daily basis and, maybe a dozen women a day at least through fitness and health and all of that, I've always been an open book and I at least got to share my experiences with them and it was a release. So for those of you going through it or, having gone through it, I want you to hear this so that you feel like you can relate, hopefully, to certain things. It's a release for you. Maybe there's some lessons that you can take from it if you are currently experiencing it. And, it's a really positive, amazing, fun story. There's the highs and the lows. So it's a movie in the making. Here we go. So as I mentioned, and I actually have notes, guys, if you're watching the YouTube version, I look down, because it's 10 years long. So to go backwards a little bit, it did start around 10 years ago. And to give you a glimpse into the future, if you guys have not heard my story, I have been through IUI, IVF, acupuncture, all the natural herbs, natural hormones, other injectable hormones of every type, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, blah, 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 the hormones that you rub up on you as well, adoption, natural births, miscarriages, and healthy pregnancies. So the only thing I really haven't done yet is surrogacy. And someone told me I had to do that. So I'm going to touch upon a little bit of everything here today. So let's back it up back to when I think I was around 30 years old. I'm 40 now, so this is about 10 years ago. My husband and I had got married when I was around 29, I believe. I don't even know the days anymore. Probably younger than that, to be perfectly honest. But right after that, I felt like, oh, well, I'm supposed to get pregnant now. I don't know that I was passionate about pregnancy. I was really growing my fitness business. And when you're working with your body, you're a bit scared to have it grow and change so quickly. But I did figure, I kind of like pushed myself into it, like, okay, let's try. So we were trying for about 5 months, which is pretty typical. And I wasn't getting pregnant, but I also knew I was having irregular periods. And yes, you would think I was definitely underweight. I was in fitness. I was doing high intensity, but there were other underlying issues that we'll hear about that caused that. in the future. So I immediately, after 5, 6 months, went to some fertility doctors because that's what my girlfriends all told me to do. And I'm living here in Los Angeles. We have expert fertility doctors. I've been to multiple. One of the first ones I went to was the Top Doctors in Beverly Hills, where you see every celebrity, every singer, model. All I'm saying is I was in really good hands there, and it's a team of fertility doctors. And I figure I would go into the feeling of the office for those of you who've been in these offices before too. So going in, gorgeous office, packed with women. And I always say it felt a bit like a cattle call. I mean, just in and out. Sometimes the husbands would come. I feel like sometimes it gets to be so much the husbands don't come anymore because there's so many appointments. They tested everything, looked at everything. Everything looked super healthy and dove me directly into IUIs at first. And that's just the insemination. They kind of give you some hormones. For those of you who haven't been through this, they give you some hormones, pump up your eggs, get you going, find out when you're ovulating. And then the gentleman has to put his sperm in a little bucket. You bring it in, and then they inseminate it in you instead. So it's just really this amazing lovemaking. So it gets very medical already. And I will say we actually went through multiple rounds of that over the period of like a year to two, maybe a little less. I went through acupuncture at the same time the whole time. So, I mean, I was running nonstop to these doctor's appointments, each which were about an hour away from my house, going to acupuncture couple times a week, probably. I was taking bark at that point, like where you literally take the bark home, make big buckets of tea with it, sift the bark out. I can take a lot of green barky drinks, and these ones I just remember smelled like farts and bark. So, but you're steady on it, you drink it. And I went through that process. I was filming TV shows in Asia, so I would have to leave and travel and then come back. So those would be the periods I would have to take off when we would have a failed IUI session. During this time, just as like some of the side effects too, I want to go through with you. I remember being in Asia actually, and chunks of my hair just started falling out in the shower. And I thought it was the hairdresser. And it wasn't until years later I really realized what had happened. I thought they were treating my hair too strong with the curling irons, being on set every day. But it was actually coming off the hormones. It was those short little breaks. And my hair was falling out kind of like you get postpartum. And we have an episode with Justine Marjan talking about that kind of hair loss and how to treat it. So I had that. And then we got back, and from a few years of those kind of shows and stuff like that, and I really hit hard. So we started to do IVF. And I remember, I'm just kind of like skipping forward to the last IVF. I also went to another expert in this period of time. So I stopped the fertility doctor in Beverly Hills. I went to another top doctor, Dr. Uzi Reese. You can look him up. It's Reiss, I believe. Uzzi is his first name. Again, lots of celebrities go to him just for hormones and aging, and he is truly an amazing soul. I adore him. And so he's a little bit more of like natural. So just testing your hormones to balance them and look at them. And hopefully with a balanced hormone, you would get pregnant. It's a lot of topical hormones, rub-ons. They're not natural necessarily. They're like bioidentical hormones. And still, I could not get a regular period after all of these hormones too. I could not get it aligned. And we weren't getting pregnant. And I want to back up just slightly too. There was this gut feeling for me the whole time that I needed to find out what the root cause of the issue was and treat that first and everything else would fall into place. But then you would see so many people going back to fertility and having babies and all of that, that then I would feel the pressure to go back and just get that taken care of, because now we're passing through years and I'm feeling a little bit older, although I was so young at that time too. But just feeling the pressure. But it's one of the lessons I've really learned through this, and I'm going to keep coming back to, is to listen to your gut. Natural is not for everybody, and fertility works for so many people, and I truly believe in it. But I knew that there was a lesson that God was giving me for myself and learning in all of this experience, but also for other people. And truly, through my fertility journey is what has led me to Keep It Simple Sexy, to my understanding of health, to KO supplements, and to true health and energy that I achieved, because it made me go on the big internal journey of finding what was the issues were with all of the healthy things that I was already doing, but were really not aligned. So I'll come back, as I continue to learn through that lesson. And that's also why I feel like I took those little breaks, but then would feel the pressure and I would come back. So I had switched fertility doctors. There was another doctor down by me in Manhattan Beach, and he's retired at this point, but like he has said he's done like Angelina Jolie. So again, another one of those top doctors, whatever. I'm in good hands. That's my point. And you kind of get passed around between multiple doctors in these. I don't know what your fertility experiences have been like if you've been through this. And so you see a different one each time based on who's in there, because you're in so often. We go through the IVFs, and I think we decide like on the last one, like this is probably it. I don't know. I think we just have a feeling. I'm tired. It's been about 5 years. Okay. So I've been going through these injections for 5 years. My body has changed. I mean, I've put on a lot of weight, and it's in weird places. I feel like the hormones cause more toxic hard fat. So you just have these like areas of fat that are really hard to get to. Being in fitness and health and nutrition, nothing was working. I was also emotionally disastrous. The stress, my hair was continuing to fall out and thin. And just be frail. I was aging more rapidly. My skin was more like just lacked glow, had more wrinkles for sure, lost elasticity. I mean, I could just see it everywhere, but it wasn't even my main concern. All of that was just like, okay, I can deal with it. But those are side effects that are not fun. And so last IVF round, and I remember we weren't telling everybody that we were going through a lot of this too. So I remember carrying injectable cases to like bachelorette parties out of town with like my sister-in-laws, and everybody staying together. And I had to get a hotel room and seem like the real creepy sister-in-law that needed to stay by myself. But it's because I had all these needles I had to inject the whole time, or taking them with me, on trips. You're planning all of this, and you just never get time off from this stuff. Also, the Clomid, I couldn't take. The first time that they gave me that stuff, I went into an immediate, I'm very sensitive to everything, guys, even like Advil, deep depression, where immediately I started crying nonstop. And luckily I had been through this when I had been on Accutane in my early 20s, where a full dose immediately hit me emotionally, and they had to kind of half the dose. And I said, I don't know why I'm crying, but I kind of understand internally there was nothing. Like I understood the mental part of it, but I was still going through the emotional part. So they had to take me off Clomid. We had all these kind of little things we went through. So anyway, IVF, we're going through hopefully one of the last ones. And so right before the official launch of KO to the press, I had to have the eggs removed, and then they do, create the embryos and all of that. And it was like 2-3 days. It was a tight schedule. I'm supposed to fly to New York, meet with New York Times, Forbes, Marie Claire, everybody. And my stomach starts swelling, and there's a lot of pain, and it actually looks like I'm 7 to 8 months pregnant, about a day to 2 days afterwards. I'm supposed to catch a flight out to New York the next morning, and we call on a weekend, and the doctor comes in, and I know this is not normal. This isn't great. What is happening? It ends up that I have ovary hyperstimulation syndrome, which I've heard just a small amount of women go through every once in a while, where you're like ovaries swell up, I guess, to baseball size. I don't know how big they were, but I basically had to go into kind of an emergency, I want to call it surgery, but they do have to put you out again and drain all the fluid out of your stomach or uterus, or I don't know the science of it, but I had to miss my flight. And, the press team went out there and had a few meetings, and I actually caught a flight the next morning. I still went out after all of that. And so in New York, I'm hustling along and waiting to find out. Every night I'm calling in to see how many embryos we have. We were lucky enough. We got 14 this time around, but it kept shrinking. And looking back, I was like, I mean, you have to work, you have to go on with your life, but it was hard. I was all by myself. So I'd call my husband and I would be crying as this would shrink, and then I'd go back into work and press meetings the next day. And I mean, I've just been through double surgery, all of that kind of stuff too, on all those hormones as well, and just kind of, go at it. So I got home and we had like maybe one viable embryo at that page. So we were like, well, let's implant it. I had it implanted, and long story short, because you guys know it was failed. And I just remember getting the phone call. I remember being in our kitchen of our former home, being on speaker, and I could cry actually right now because I remember my husband's face. I had held the emotions that whole time for 5 years, right? I went through it. I went through it mentally. I went through it emotionally. And my husband was just like that big support, like, it's fine. We're going to be fine. That's his personality. You're great. You're strong. This is going to work. And that last time, he just started to cry, to really bawl his eyes out. And I can still picture it. And it wasn't the pain for him. It was like the pain for me. And I remember like going outside and just sitting on our little balcony and just crying, but knowing that like, this is it. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's too much. And I'm just done with this. And he understood, and he was as well. And again, going back a little bit, like, I knew that I just wanted to figure out what was wrong with my body at that point. Like, I didn't even care about having children anymore. What's going on with Christine? I'm in the health industry. There were little signs at the very last time I got my IVF. The doctor was like, oh, he didn't even say, oh, you have low thyroid. He just mentioned I have low thyroid. I'm like, well, hello. 5 years ago, that would have been great to mention to me, because I'm sure a lack of energy will have to do with this. So I was like, I'm going to start to treat my low thyroid. And that was, we went on that mission, and I just started treating my natural health and researching those kind of things.
The Keep It Simple Sexy podcast is brought to you by KO Body Care. So tell me if this sounds familiar. You have a ton of high-end serums and creams for your face, but nothing of the same quality for the skin on your body. And that's where my company, KO Body Care, comes in. Our skincare products are made with the same powerful, transformative ingredients as luxury facial products, but they're formulated just for the skin on your body. The same goes for our supplements. We use only the highest quality, clean, plant-based ingredients that help your skin glow from the inside out. My two current firming must-haves are our concentrated firming serum. It's our award-winning total body serum to firm, tone, and deeply hydrate topically. I love to add it with our Skin Perfect Next Gen Collagen. It is so much more than just a marine-based collagen. It also has hyaluronic acid, phytoceramides, trace minerals, antioxidants to protect your skin, boost your collagen elastin, and help your skin glow from the inside out. If you're wanting to learn more about KO Body Care supplements and skincare, head to kobodycare.com and use KISS20 for 20% off your first purchase.
Hi, my name is Maria Good, and I'm the Global Product Educator for Passiflora. As we know, collagen production slows around age 30, leading to thinning of the skin and skin laxity. When we make more collagen, our skin appears firmer, tighter, lifted, and more robust. Tripolar Stop X Rose is an age-defying tool that uses radio frequency to gently stimulate the production of new collagen and elastin. Dramatic, long-lasting results will come after 3 months of consistent use, but you'll see a difference after the very first treatment. Stop X is effective because of the technology. It's made by a company called Polygen, a division of Luminous, which is a global leader in the manufacture of clinical-grade devices. So if you're interested in a tool that's safe, effective, and gives great results at home, this should be your first stop.
In addition, I've wanted to adopt a child since I was a kid. It's just something I've always said I'm going to adopt. And, in speaking with Bobby when he was just my boyfriend, I was like, I really want to adopt. I need this to be an option for you in order to get married. And it always was. But we always thought it would be like the second child. And so maybe the same day the failed IVF happened, maybe it was the next day. My husband and I are just like, let's go, especially him. Next thing, he was like, let's start the adoption process. And I think I was still in a bubble of depression a bit, I'm sure, and not, just being out of it. And he started the process of adoption. And thank God, and I'm so happy it all happened that way. I don't know that once you have like one child and you're stepping into adopting a child, you realize it's a really big process, or it is a fearful process, and you may not do it. And so I feel like God blessed us in the sense, and that might have been the one thing, like, listen to your gut. To me, listen to your gut, heal yourself, do the adoption. You've wanted to do this. Let's do that first. And so we started the adoption process, jump right into it, really without thinking about anything because we were just so fatigued. And typically adoption process can be very long. And there's a full episode about our adoption process as well that I'm doing, but I'm just going to keep this one brief to get through it. But our adoption process was easy. It was really fast. It was probably like maybe 6-7 months total. And that's a lot of paperwork, background checks, people coming in, social workers coming to visit you, matching with a parent family, biological family, and the baby being born. So I think from September, and then Remy was born on April 4th. And we had this magical, amazing child. And you can hear all about it, like I said, in another episode about that experience as well. But within the first month of her being born, I was naturally pregnant, shockingly. And I had been working on my health. I'd been, just doing things to treat the low thyroid, the low energy, all of that kind of stuff. And boom, naturally pregnant after 5 or 6 years at this point. Can you believe it? Seriously, because we couldn't. The shock and the joy and happiness. I was going to have Irish twins. I was just like, oh my God, we get blessed with 2. Well, almost as soon as we found out, a few weeks later, once again, I'm on a work trip for KO, and I have to share this part because I think it's funny looking back. But I had to fly down to, I think they're near Orlando, I forget, Tampa, HSN, Home Shopping Network. And KO was on the Home Shopping Network, and it was like mixing all my fun backgrounds. And I thought this would be a really fun experience. And as I'm getting the plane, I start bleeding heavily. And I'm like, well, girl, you got to focus. Like, there's nothing you can do but pray. Just pray, you're not miscarrying right now. So I go down. I think it's the next day. There's like 24 hours or more of HSN. So I'm on late at night, going home. I'm getting a couple hours of sleep. We're on early in the morning again. And we're finally done. And I just decide like Scarlett O'Hara, like, not today. So I just can't think about it. I packed blue and white clothes to match my KO. So I have white pants on the entire time. And I am just layered up down there. And so finally, when the last show is over, I'm exhausted. And I walk from the hotel over to the grocery store, get a pregnancy test, and take it in the hotel bathroom. Once again, I'm by myself, and I'm not pregnant any longer. And I've never cried that pain. I could cry again just thinking about it. I really don't think about these things, but I never felt that pain. And I just remember being in the hotel room by myself and sitting by the front door where the bathroom was, just on the floor, convulsing with like pain of that many years of going through it, that many years, and being so ecstatic. And then, your first miscarriage. I will say to all the women who have been pregnant and go through miscarriages even later than I was, because it was pretty early, I feel like that's the one thing I couldn't have taken. And like, God was just like, we just know her level. So bless you all, because the pain is just so deep. And it's just the one thing I couldn't have been able to go through. So God bless you all for having to have gone through that as well. So fast forward that year, I make it home. I get through it. We have a beautiful baby at home, which obviously really helped me too. It was just like, you just keep going. And I was just so blessed to have Remington, our first adopted daughter. But 2 more times that year, I get pregnant and have a miscarriage around the same time. And which is like 6-7 weeks, I believe, into it. And so it was almost like a year later that I had that last miscarriage. And again, we were like, it's a funny story. I mean, we were in a snowstorm in Park City. We had to leave Remy with our friends and run to the hospital because it was really intense what was happening this time around. It was much more intense. And I was afraid to get on an airplane the next day. And we almost like went off the side of a hill, and it was so much fun. So lots of fun stories to go along with the miscarriages. But I had found a new OBGYN. And when she looked after the first miscarriage and looked at my ovaries, she was like, and looked at whatever else, she was like, you have PCOS. And now looking back at the symptoms that every fertility doctor was also telling me the entire time, with cysts on my ovaries, even the hair loss, there was tons of stuff. I had PCOS the whole time, and no one ever told me. They had to know the amount of times that they looked at the cysts on my ovaries, which are one big sign for a doctor. No one ever told me. So no one ever told me I had a low thyroid and I had PCOS. Hello. Maybe from the beginning, somebody should have said you have irregular periods, not necessarily because the fitness full time or whatever and holding all that guilt, because you have this hormonal imbalance. And yes, let's find things. Maybe the fitness isn't helping the amount of fitness that you were doing at the time, but there were things that I could do. So once I knew, and now I'm getting pregnant naturally because I was already resting much more and treating myself, taking the nutrition for the low thyroid, which really helped with the hormones from the PCOS too, to balance everything out. So I had started to heal myself and I was getting pregnant naturally. That was my first thing against me. That was the PCOS. And that's why I couldn't originally get pregnant. So I went, and luckily I was hoping to heal that, naturally, and just help it, I should say, assist it and support it naturally. And I did. And now, so then we get to the point of the miscarriages. Once you get to, you guys know, in the sense of anybody that's had miscarriages, I don't know all doctors are this way, but I've heard this experience multiple times. They have to wait till 3 times. And in the hands of my old OBGYN, as much as I adored her, and at least she diagnosed the PCOS, I would be like, I'm pregnant. And they'd be like, you can't come in until this 7 weeks. And I'd be like, but I miscarried last time. Like, I need to come in. You need to like put me on progesterone or any, whatever, doing my own research. And they're like, no, you can't come in. And so each time I would miscarry again. So after that, I just didn't have a really good taste in my mouth, and I wanted to find a new OBGYN. I was also done with biological babies. I actually was just like, you know what? I just want to adopt. I want Remington to only have adopted siblings anyway. This is what I want. And we moved along. We were also just focusing on work too, and Remy. And we were starting the adoption process again. And so we were in the adoption process again, and I found a new OBGYN. And I only had this OBGYN, or really wanted somebody, because she focused in on PCOS. She was an expert in PCOS. And this can really aid you, this hormonal issue, minus the fertility stuff. So I was like, I need to treat this at the root cause. And actually, it was Justine Marjan, who is on another one of our episodes, who referred her to me. And so everything in its timing, and it's amazing how all that kind of stuff aligns. So I go to Dr. Ty Aliabadi, who I love and adore so much. One of the top, if not the top, OBGYN in Los Angeles. And didn't know that at the time, but I just knew she was an expert in PCOS and would go in. So we talked about it. For you all out there, she did put me on metformin at the time. And I'm not on that now, and I haven't been on it for a long time. Man, that rocked my tummy if anybody else has been on that. And I just continued to treat myself naturally. And I felt like, okay, I'm in good hands. She knew I had PCOS. I told her about the miscarriages, and she had all the information. So maybe a year, 2 years, about 2 years after the last miscarriage. So Remy was about 2.5, or 2, I guess, actually. So only a year later, I got pregnant naturally, not by mistake, but just, we were never trying. And I was never counting when I was ovulating or anything like that. So I got pregnant naturally. And so I immediately called Dr. Aliabadi. And she had actually just been going through surgery herself with some major health scares. And she was in the hospital. And she called another doctor and got me to see him, Dr. Stephen Rad, who does like the specialty kind of stuff for children, or for mothers and pregnancies. And he got me in right away and saw me. They immediately put me on. They figured my miscarriages. It sounded like I had I always say it wrong, but it's like the MFDR. I forget. Oh, there it is. MFDR. Yeah, the MFDR gene, where your body thinks it's not something good within the body, the baby, the embryo, and so it clots it, and that's why you end up miscarrying. There's other things that go along with it where you can test, which I knew I had too, like I can't absorb normal folic acid, so some women go through that, and it's a hard time getting pregnant, and they don't realize they have this gene, which is pretty common. So you're not absorbing the folic acid, so the body knows it doesn't want you to get pregnant without that, so you have to do a special folate acid and all that kind of stuff too. So they had thought that possibly. So immediately they put me on, because everybody always asked me what I'm on or what I was on. Lovenox, which is a blood thinner injectable. And I have to take it the entire pregnancy. I'm taking it this time as well. They put me on a progesterone insert for the first trimester. And then I'm also on a baby ibuprofen with the Lovenox after the second trimester through the rest of the pregnancy. And I will tell you, under the care of Dr. Ty Aliabadi and Dr. Steve Rad, I had an easy, amazing pregnancy. Yes, you have to inject yourself every night. Yeah, it's super painful and lots of bruising and all that kind of stuff, but you don't even remember it, afterwards. I just really loved being pregnant and having the experience as a woman who only knows bodies, and it's just what I love. To just have the experience of pregnancy was so special for me. It's not for me about having a birth child, because I do love children. I don't care where they come from. We're here just to empower them and to nurture them. And for me, it doesn't matter if it's biological or not. But to experience pregnancy was just something that I had always dreamed of. And So I had a healthy pregnancy, and it's not it was a fairly easy delivery, just like 12 hours or so. I was induced. Baby was a little small, so I went like 2 weeks early. But if you have a really easy delivery, God bless you. You are a miracle. But my point too is, like, looking back, there were a few other lessons that I learned that I want to pass along to you. So number one, and I passed by this part, is that my mom had me when she was 34. And back then in the 70s and 80s, that was a little older for women in Pittsburgh too. And she always told me about it, how much older she was and how it was hard for her to get pregnant. Fast forward many, many, many years after I think Poppy even was born, my mom said, no, she just didn't like my dad that much. So they weren't really trying. But what had happened is that put this predisposition or faith towards this for me to have infertility issues already. So I believed I would have fertility issues in my 20s, before I even was married or met Bobby, my husband. So, and I hear that from women a lot, because they'll be like, I'm scared my mom had this. I'm scared my son has gone through this. My sister's gone through this. My friend, not even related, right? Genetically. You have to release that, because to be honest, I didn't have any issues. If I were just fully healthy, I was overrunning my body, which caused the PCOS symptoms, caused for it to be harder for me to get pregnant. And as soon as I treated the original health things, which was actually fairly easy, having a balanced lifestyle, I could get pregnant. Now, yes, there are the miscarriages, and there are so many other different reasons. And the lesson I learned from that is two lessons. One, listen to your gut of how you are supposed to experience this, right? With anything you're going through, but listen to your gut of how your journey is going to be different than everybody else's. And if I hadn't been through the depths of pain and searching and my faith, man, of just learning what it is to never give up and have faith that everything will work out, to figure out my own health and not put it in any one particular doctor's hands, and get a lot of different point of views, and really make that ultimate decision for yourself. And, always natural supports. And not one person, I don't care how professional they are, I do believe if you truly understand your gut and you really know yourself and you know your body and you tune in, you're going to know those little things in your day that you truly need, or who to listen to, or maybe this is my doctor, like Dr. Tayalia Body. This is it. And 3, just getting to the faith part too, is that I always, as much as I actually didn't even want a biological child, because I just wanted Remy to feel like she had all of these adopted siblings, I know that if I have a dream in my heart that's so deep, it's just something that I want for my life, that it's planted in there by God or the universe, whatever you believe in. And if it's there, by that power, it's meant to be, and it's meant to happen, and that we're the only people that block that from happening. So I felt such a peace that I would get pregnant, whether I wanted to or not at that point. But I did realize that sometimes it's in God's timing. And that was something else, the patience. And I let go and I released, and I just fully released in faith and knowing. And I won't say it happened immediately, but it was a beautiful experience to be in that peace for a while, and patience for a while, and to learn what that is. And to also learn that a deep love that I wanted so badly, I could achieve through rest and not working so hard at it, working at building my faith and resting. And so one of the greatest lessons is if there's all the other dreams as big and as small as they've been, nothing's as big as having a baby for me, having more children. It will happen. And so, I leave you all with the fact that one, children are children and family is family, and it doesn't matter where any of them come from and how you have to get there. If that's what you want, then, may it be fertility, maybe natural health, maybe adoption, maybe surrogacy. Follow your heart and your gut on what you feel your path is to get there, and just never give up faith. If this is what you want, then you will achieve it. If you're going through it right now, I am sorry. There are the depths of pain, and you will come out of this. Rest, meditate, visualize what you want. Visualize you being there. Visualize the peace and the feelings that come with that, and the happiness and the joy. And I promise you, the bigger things will come, the higher notes, the peaks of the mountain. You will have your little babies and they will tire you out. So that is my fertility journey. That's the ups and the downs of it. That's the all arounds of it. And I'm sure you'll hear me through the years of Keep It Simple Sexy talking to other experts, and always pointing to it as well and saying, because it was all the main health issues. Sleep was an issue. I wasn't sleeping correctly. Learned to sleep. I learned to work out way less, my 20-minute workouts. I really do what I preach. Mixing up my workouts, not all high intensity. Supplementation was really important, why we have KO supplements. Self-care, the gua shas, the dry brushing, those little minimal things that we talk about. So these experts are really what helped me achieve my dreams. So I wish for you that you guys all, are able to take those little tidbits of information and apply that to where you are in your journey, whether it's fertility, whether it's another dream that you have, to just really, your health comes first, and then everything else will follow suit. Thank you all for tuning in to my fertility journey, and I'll see you here next time. Have questions you need answered? Text me at 1-310-361-8697. Make sure you're following me on social at Christine Bullock, and have a healthy, happy week. See you next time.